Our council has been called dysfunctional. Dysfunctional at the best of times was what
Would you agree with that?
I think we are dysfunctional in a number of ways, yeah. And but like I said, we need direction. We need a strong leader who holds us to the direction. We need to look at what needs to get done in this city, what the residents want to get done in this city, and that's what we need to focus on.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Brampton, Ontario. And folks, as you know, we've been trying to track down the mayor of Brampton. That would be Patrick Brown, formerly a leadership candidate for the Conservative Party. He was excluded from that race due to financial shenanigans. Imagine that. But I'm here with Councillor Jeff Bowman, who has graciously given us his time to speak about what's happening in the city. A source here in Brampton said, he gave me an analogy of the Simpsons when Mr. Burns goes in for a medical checkup and the prognosis is, Mr. Burns, we don't know where to start. You have every disease and virus known to mankind, and you kind of get the sense that is happening here. It's almost as though under Patrick Brown, this is a dysfunctional city. But first things first, Mr. Bowman, thank you so much for taking time between council meetings to speak to us. One of the first things we're trying to understand is the scoop we had back in early June, where we indicated that at least 7 senior City of Brampton employees were working on Patrick Brown's campaign, apparently with no leaves of absence. Some of them were jet-setting across the country. I now understand from my source the number is closer to 15 City of Brampton employees working on the campaign, the now aborted campaign. This was against the City of Brampton Code of Conduct rules. It is against the Canada Elections Act rules. We've reached out to the Chief Administrative Officer, Paul Morrison. Haven't heard back. We gave him an entire dossier. Has Mr. Brown on council, and I know there's been many council meetings that have been scrubbed due to a lack of quorum, but has this been addressed? Because as far as I can tell, Mr. Bowman, this is the theft of Brampton taxpayer dollars that staff were being used not for the City of Brampton business, but for Patrick Brown business.
First, thank you for having me on. I appreciate that. As far as staff being utilized for other reasons other than city reasons, we have a full office of the mayor's staff over here, but due to COVID and things like that, we never see or rarely see the staff here. So I can't really comment on where they're working or what they're working on. But in terms of has this been covered in council yet? No. Councillor Dillon did have an item on one of our agendas to discuss this very thing. But as you said, some of the council meetings got scrubbed for various reasons. People didn't show up. There was no quorum. They were called when people were on vacation. So no, that has not been brought up in council yet.
And I mean, it does seem to be a very serious breach, much like his secret Vaughan, Ontario campaign headquarters. I understand that building was given for, free of rent. This is by an associate or a friend of Mr. Brown's. That would be a violation of the Elections Act and the Code of Conduct too. Has that been addressed?
No, that's not been addressed either.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm not trying to criticize you. I know there are so many items on the agenda, especially with all the canceled council meetings. Now, we have a story. It's about to come out. It's about the sale of Mayor Brown's previous residence, one on Main Street. And here's the situation. We're trying to find out who pumped approximately $800,000 of renovations into the house, Mr. Bowman. As well, we're trying to determine if there's a connection between the City of Brampton PPE contract, which was untendered, worth about $1 million, to a numbered company. Evidently, the check was sent to a post office box in Ottawa. What do you make of this? It sounds suspicious to me.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right. And I mean, I don't know anything about what you've just uncovered, other than the fact that The PPE, the investigation of the PPE, is one of the items that we're having an audit done on, as to who we ordered it from, how much we ordered it from, where it came from, how it was delivered, and the total cost. But you guys have uncovered something that I haven't heard before, so I guess, if that turns out to be a good lead, kudos to you guys.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bowman. And of course, it wouldn't be the first time Mayor Brown has been engaged in real estate shenanigans. We go back to 2017 when he got a $370,000 loan for a Simcoe County property. And it was this is when he was the leader of the PC party of Ontario still. And it seems to be the quid pro quo is that individual was appointed the candidate for Brampton North. So that's a matter of public record. But I'm very fascinated by this forensic audit that you just spoke of. What can we expect this forensic audit to touch upon?
Well, there's actually two. There's one forensic audit which we just discussed in council, and that is to do with the Brampton U. How it was developed, how the RFP was conceived, who was involved in the awarding of the RFP, how did the amount of the RFP go from 300 to 500, and the people who were involved in it, where's the deliverables. So all that is being covered in a forensic audit right now, and that's the one we just talked about. Hopefully we will get a response back by September 10th. A full and open discovery, or I don't know what the exact word is, a report, and all things will be made clear, I guess, at that point. We need to be open and transparent about who was involved in this, especially with elections coming up. And if everything was above board, that's wonderful, because that's what City Hall should be. But if there was anything wrong, the residents have a right to know.
And you did mention earlier, and speaking of above board, this PPE contract. It just seems so fishy to me, Mr. Bowman, that this is something A, untendered, B, given to a numbered company, C, allegedly the check sent to an Ottawa post office box. Is that part of the forensic audit too?
Well, I mean, we are looking at the PPE as part of the forensic audit, but there's no steering committee for the RFPs that were involved in that, so I really can't comment because I don't know what's going on with those audits. Hopefully, CAO says we'll get a result back the same time around September 12th.
Okay. Yeah. And, in the big picture, I mean, people who aren't following Brampton politics diligently, they might not realize that for the last several months, council meeting after council meeting has been canceled due to a lack of quorum. What has that been all about?
Well, the first 4 council meetings that were canceled, if you listen to the mayor's side, he says it's because they were trying to protect the corporation and that we didn't have a right to appoint Elaine Moore to a vacant position before the position was declared vacant.
And Elaine Moore was a replacement for Charmaine Williams, who became a MPP for Brampton in the last provincial election.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And so that was their reasoning for not showing up to those meetings. The meetings that followed that are a completely different story because a week and a half before the mayor called any of those meetings, his staff member contacted all of council and asked them if they were available the following week for meetings, to which 5 council members, including myself, said no. This is the break between council meetings. This is the sort of summer hiatus for councillors designed for us to take a vacation with our family and get away from City Hall for a while. Knowing full well that he would not have quorum, the mayor called a meeting for Tuesday, which we didn't show up for, Wednesday, which we didn't show up for, Thursday, Friday, and Monday again. 5 meetings in a row that he called during a time where there was no scheduled meetings.
And this is very interesting, and I understand Mr. Medeiros, he was all the way in Portugal. The city was well aware of his holiday time. And this was indeed all about Mayor Brown attaining a quorum of councillors friendly to him, I suppose, and suddenly vilifying you and 4 of your colleagues who are not, I guess, on Team Brown, if you will. It sounds like a really, a slimy way to do municipal business.
Well, I don't want to comment on the slimy, but I was up at my cottage up north where my internet connection is almost zero. But the final 2 meetings, I actually had COVID. I was fortunate enough to contact COVID on my vacation.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Sorry to hear that.
well, that's okay. These are the type of things that we as councillors need to deal with. Stuff like this should not be happening. In my mind, the mayor should be trying to build council up. He should be trying to get consensus on council. Even today, our council meeting today, there are a number of contentious issues that we still have to deal with this afternoon. And I mean, there was easier ways, better ways to do this. We could have been working towards getting everything settled, getting everything done, all the corporation business. And I believe one councillor mentioned it this morning that we've got elections coming up,
Yep.
and the residents will decide who they're going to vote for. And the one thing I continually hear for the last 2 months is get the business of the city done. Stop the squabbling. We don't want to hear it. We want the business of the city to get done. Everybody needs to show up for work. Everybody needs to take their job seriously. And I mean, we continue to squabble, and that's just not acceptable.
Yeah, it is something to see for sure. And it was interesting earlier in the council meeting, Mayor Brown made it known that he's a huge hockey fan and likes to play hockey. Oh, don't we know that, Mr. Bowman? Because we go back a couple of years, and while the City of Brampton was shutting down all the recreational facilities, the baseball diamonds, the soccer pitches, even the playgrounds, having security guards spy on these rec facilities to get bylaw along in case anyone was using them, we caught Patrick Brown red-handed, breaking his own rules with his buddies from Barrie at one of your hockey arenas. In case anyone doesn't remember that, let's just throw to a quick clip. It never gets old.
Well, folks, we're getting the bums rush, but holy mackerel, I think I see Patrick Brown himself.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Mr. Brown, right?
Yeah.
David Menzies with Rebel News.
You're in a city facility?
What's that?
You're in a city facility?
Yeah, so are you.
Yeah.
So, are you playing hockey here? Or?
No, I'm just coming to check in our facility. So
Okay,
we're gonna check you. You're not supposed to be here, actually.
We were told that you play pickup here. Mr. Brown, how come the kids in Brampton can only practice sports, but your buddies can play hockey?
So, I don't know why you are harassing people in the city of Brampton, but you shouldn't be.
Oh, who's harassing who? Your guy handed out 122 bylaw violations in 1 week. Mr. Brown, why is there a hockey game going on in this arena? I thought you're only allowed to practice sports, not play them. And who is paying the $1,000 a day, Mr. Brown, for this rink? Mr. Brown, are these taxpayer dollars being used for your buddies to play hockey on this rink? Or are you paying it? Or perhaps Waleed Solomon? So, Mr. Brown, why is it one law for me and one law for thee in this city?
So there you have it, Mr. Bowman. And what I found outrageous about this is that this went before the Integrity Commissioner, a personal friend of Patrick Brown. That was one of the first orders of business when he became mayor, was to replace the Integrity Commissioner. And all she found him in violation of was not wearing a mask. What did you make of that unbelievable double standard that we uncovered in 2020?
Well, I think you sure had a hit in terms of number of views of that particular video. As far as being reported to the Integrity Commissioner and the Integrity Commissioner's findings, I can't argue with the Integrity Commissioner. That's not my place. But you've got firsthand information that the mayor was at the hockey game, and if I remember correctly, I think he actually left a council meeting to go there.
Oh, interesting. So he was playing hockey by playing hooky, if you will, from his actual council business. Unbelievable. And that Integrity Commissioner, I understand, has since been fired earlier this year. Is there a new Integrity Commissioner in Brampton, or?
Yeah, we moved everything over, all those files that were unresolved. went over to the integrity commissioner who does the integrity work for the region appeal. So, now that's the integrity commissioner that we all deal with, and things seem to be going very well with that organization.
I question, in the big picture, why is Patrick Brown the mayor of Brampton? He has absolutely no connection with this city. He grew up in Toronto and Barrie. And in fact, when he was first running for office, sometimes he misspoke, calling Brampton Barrie. And is it just for this insatiable quest of power, Mr. Bowman? He got kicked out of the Ontario PC party as leader. He got kicked out of the CPC federal leadership race. Is it just a matter of having some kind of power?
I don't really know. The mayor has certainly had a history at various levels of government, from the time he was a very young man to the current run that he's going to be putting in for mayor. It certainly hasn't been without controversy, that's for sure, in each of the places he's gone to. And I was very, very vocal during his PC campaign that the City of Brampton is not a third choice. We need to be number one. We need to be the first choice. And by the third choice, I'm saying his first choice was leader of the CPC. His second choice, clearly, he said it was to work with Jean Charest or Leslyn Lewis, anybody other than Mr. Polyev. So that puts Brampton down to third. So, I think and I said it in several interviews, we need someone here who's dedicated to the city, who wants to move the city forward, who has no aspirations today or in the next 4 years to do anything else. His total dedication is here in the city. And if he's decided that, as of when he put his name in, which coincidentally was the first Monday that all of us were away on vacation before he started calling meetings, then that's fine. I'm fine with that. But he needs to live up to that word. And if there's an election coming up in this term of council, then he should not have any interest in that at all.
I think you're right, Mr. Bowman. I think, his eye on the prize, if you will, was leader of the CPC and then potentially Prime Minister of Canada. It's almost as though being mayor of Brampton is a consolation prize. I remember the line from the sales contest in Glengarry Glen Ross: first prize, Cadillac Eldorado; second prize, set of steak knives; third prize, you're fired. So maybe there's something to that. But as Brampton goes ahead, I'm just wondering, is there any kind of a star candidate, if you will, that is going to run against Patrick Brown in the next election?
Well, I've seen a couple of the names that are there for mayor now. I can't say whether they're star candidates or not. Certainly, nobody has stepped forward as yet with the cachet of Mayor Brown. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. We have until the 19th of August, which is next week, and we'll see if anybody else comes forward or not.
Okay, thank you for that. And also, you mentioned Brampton University. For our viewers who are not familiar with this concept and indeed the controversy around it, can you shed a little light on that, Mr. Bowman?
Sure. The Brampton University was a concept that came out of meetings between certain councillors and educational facilities, and basically what it was is not to go with a university such as Algoma, which is here, for example, but to have sort of a hybrid university that had online courses, that had worldwide connections to universities, that had professors from all over the world, and sort of a tailored university to what we need here in the city. It was not accepted at first by the province. It's nothing that's been done before. But we spent a lot of money on trying to move this project forward, and that's what the investigation is all about now.
I see then. And there might be some financial shenanigans behind, the consulting work behind the university, perhaps?
Yeah, we've just got to determine, and the audit will tell us that, exactly who was involved. We're gonna have to look at or see, was there communications between anybody, including councillors, with any of the proponents who won the RFPs, and what that was, and just whether everything was done out in the open, and that's what I'm hoping comes forward on the 12th.
Okay, and like you said, the 19th is when that's the deadline for being a candidate. We'll see if there's any, top level name going up against the mayor. But tell me, as a councillor of the City of Brampton, and I know you love living in Brampton, Mr. Bowman, how do you feel when, Mayor Patrick Brown seems to be what I would call a chaos magnet. Wherever Patrick Brown is, scandal is sure to follow. We uncovered the hockey rink fiasco. We caught him red-handed at the secret campaign office. How does that make you feel as a resident and a councillor of Brampton that this mayor is so often in the pages of the press up to no good?
Well, I was born here. I've been here a very, very long time. And for the last number of years, Brampton seems to get a very bad reputation with other municipalities for what happens, what doesn't happen, the extracurricular things that go on with council. Our council has been called dysfunctional. Dysfunctional at the best of times was what.
Would you agree with that?
I think we are dysfunctional in a number of ways, yeah. And but like I said, we need direction. We need a strong leader who holds us to the direction. We need to look at what needs to get done in this city, what the residents want to get done in this city, and that's what we need to focus on. The stuff, that if different councillors have problems with one another, that should not be brought out in a council chamber. Take care of it away from the cameras and at least give the public the perception that when council starts, we're dead serious about what goes on in this city. We take care of it, we deal with it, and once that's done, if there's alternate issues or issues between councillors, that should not be brought out in council. That should be dealt with internally between those two councillors.
Well, certainly come fall, it'll be a fascinating election campaign. This is definitely a municipality to watch. I can tell you that. There's so many issues. Indeed, Mr. Bowman, I know you got to get back to the afternoon session of council and grab a sandwich. We're only human. Tell me, is there anything I missed that you feel would be relevant in terms of the state of affairs in the city of Brampton today under Mayor Patrick Brown?
No, I think you've covered it very well. I think there's a lot of coverage. The Pointer does some excellent coverage about what's going on in this city. As we head into an election, I think people need to be very well educated on what's happening here. There are times where things happen here and one particular slant seems to make it to the news, whereas the other opinions or that middle ground doesn't make it anywhere. So I hope coming into the election, I hope everybody does their research. I hope they choose the candidates they think will help move this city along. And I wish everybody the best of luck.
You raise a fascinating point, though. The way the mainstream media, and I agree with you, the Pointer, I think, is doing fantastic work, and I recommend our viewers to follow the Pointer's work if they're interested in the city of Brampton. But when it comes to the mainstream media, the Brampton Guardian, which is part of the Torstar chain, News Talk 1010, I always see, or I frequently see Patrick Brown as a guest on the John Moore in the Morning show. I don't get it. What is it about the mainstream media that they seem to cover for him in a certain sense, Mr. Bowman?
Well, I don't want to say they're covering for him. What I will say is they cover him. And I guess he's an important figure. He's got a reputation. You can't argue he's charismatic in front of a camera. And I think that's the reporters are just drawn into that. And, so if you're a reporter from any of the mainstream media outlets, you're naturally going to go towards the mayor and his story. You're not as much concerned about the councillors who are on the other side of what the mayor's talking about. So, I mean, we have to accept that. That's life, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, Mr. Bowman, I want to thank you sincerely for your time. There you have it. These are the words of Councillor Jeff Bowman here in Brampton. I would disagree with one thing Mr. Bowman said about Mr. Brown being charismatic in front of the camera. When we put our cameras on him, we're only filming the back of his head, and he's phoning the police to mop up the mess. So in any event, folks, mark your calendars. Third Monday in October, I believe, is Election Day. We'll be here to see what happens in the city of Brampton. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, these farmer rebellions, they're really catching on. No doubt the mainstream media is going to demonize the farmers and their allies, just like they did with the trucker convoys earlier this year. But hey, why depend on the mainstream media for your news? If you want to get the straight goods, just go to farmerrebellion.com. That's farmerrebellion.com. You can look at all of our reporting that we have filed in the last several weeks, and you know you're going to get the real story when you tune into Rebel News for that. And also, folks, if you can kick in $1 or $3 to help cover the cost of our reporting, we would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.